So oftentimes when people get a new rock tumbler, they wonder if they're able to tumble just any old rock. They think maybe they can go into their backyard, grab just any old rock, and end up with a beautiful shine. So today we are going to test that theory and see what happens when you tumble a handful of random rocks. Okay, well first we're gonna need some gravel. My husband was very kind and brought me some 3/4 inch rock. Now, I wouldn't say that this is particularly rock that you would put like on a gravel road because it is a little bit bigger than what you typically would use for a gravel road. So we're gonna use this for most of the barrel, and then I'm going to go to an actual gravel road and get some kind of dirt and sandy mixture as our tumbler media. And as you can see, it is fall here in Minnesota. Let's get these leaves out of here and pick some rocks. Now I want to do this completely randomly, so I'm just going to grab a handful and put it in our tumbler barrel. So let's go ahead and grab some rocks. We'll plop them right in there and we'll keep going just like that. Okay, so we got a decent amount of rocks in our barrel here, and now I'm going to go to an actual gravel road and put some of the rocky mixture on a real gravel road into our barrel. Okay, here we are on a real gravel road. So we have lots and lots of rocks here to choose from. Let's just kind of take some handfuls and put it in here. What's kind of cool about these rocks is they are very small, so they're really going to help to tumble our bigger rocks that are in here, but we'll see. Hopefully all the different hardnesses will work out okay in our tumbler, because typically you don't want to mix different levels of hardness when you're tumbling your rocks. So we will see what happens. Okay, we have quite the mixture in here. As you can see, there are lots of little rocks, some bigger rocks, and I did maybe just a little over half full because it is quite heavy already. So let's go back and add some water to this, our tumbling grit, and let's get it on the tumbler for week 1. All right, we're back. Let's get started on putting our grit and our water in the tumbler barrel. Okay, so first we're gonna add our water in here. That looks good. And now we're gonna add our grit. So because this is really, really dense, ooh, and you can already see how dirty it is. Oh, this is gonna be interesting. But because it is really dense, I'm not really sure how the grit's gonna do in here. So I think I'm gonna do 2 scoops of our step 1, which is 6090 silicone carbide, and I get this grit from the Rock Shed. So I am new to using this grit, but I've heard that it's really good. So let's go ahead and put 2 scoops in here, and we'll get it on the tumbler barrel for 1 week. All right, see you in a week. It's time to take a look at our experimental barrel of gravel-filled rocks. Okay, I am so excited to look at what is in our barrel. We have some water here, we've got our strainer, and everything ready for us to see what happens after 1 week of our gravel in our tumbler. I am not really sure what to expect, especially because I don't really know the type of rocks that went in the first place. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see kind of what they end up looking like. All right, let's see. Oh, okay, so that's like a pretty interesting color. Very dirty, I would say, probably because of all the dirt that was in here. Okay, the moment of truth. Ooh, it is thick. Okay. So, definitely very thick, very dirty. Look at that. Okay, let's rinse this bad boy out. And we will also rinse, of course, our rock and see what they look like. Oh boy. Okay. Oh, this is so weird. I can't look at all the tiny little rocks in here. I mean, it's great because, you know, it's kind of its own ceramic media, which is nice. And I do think that we will probably do 2 rounds of Grit 1 just to kind of give them at least a bit more of a fighting chance. I don't know, maybe even 3, but for sure 2. And we'll see kind of what they look like then. Okay, so here is kind of how they are looking. Ooh, I don't know, this one looks kind of interesting. But to be honest, there are not too many stunners, but that's okay. This is all part of the experiment. So let's go ahead and get these back in the tumbler barrel. I'm gonna clean up this mess and we will get grit 1 going again for these rocks. So here is what it's looking like right now. It is a little over halfway full, so I don't think I'll be adding anything else to it. And as you can see, there was lots and lots of little grit and dirt and all kinds of ooey gooeys left over, and I was not going to take the time to try to scrape all that in here. I think, you know, having what we have is just fine. So let's add some water, and let's add our grit 1 again here, our 60/90. We're gonna add 2 scoops. And I'm also going to add some borax, a scoop of borax as well. That maybe will help clean up the rocks a little bit. So let's go ahead and add that, and we'll put it back on the tumbler for another week. Okay, so let's take a look at how our gravel tumble is going. So I did end up putting these in grit 1 for 2 weeks instead of 1, just to kind of give them a little bit more of a chance to work. But we will see how the 2 weeks in grit 1 has been doing for our gravel tumble. It is still looking pretty dirty, and it is looking pretty sludgy in there. All right, moment of truth. Let's see how they're doing. Ooh, they are looking a lot smaller and a lot smoother. Here's what the inside of the barrel looks like. Very, very dirty. So let's get these rinsed off and see how they look. Okay, so here is kind of how they are looking so far. There are a couple in here that might have some potential, but it looks like we did end up with a lot of basalt, which typically doesn't tumble too terribly well. This one is kind of nice, but it's really thin. There are a couple of rocks in here that might have some good potential. It'll be kind of interesting to see, though, as they're tumbled with kind of these more plain basalt rocks, if they end up actually getting a good shine or not. So we will see and hope for the best here. You can also see lots and lots of little teeny tiny rocks, and I'm really excited to see what these end up looking like in the end, because typically I don't tumble super tiny rocks like this. So let's go ahead and get these moved on into step number 2 and continue on our gravel tumbling journey. Okay, there we have it. We have our grit 2 in there. If you're curious, I am using 12220 silicone carbide for my grit 2. Did 2 tablespoons. As you saw, I also added some ceramic media just because the barrel level was getting pretty low to give them the best shot that they have. So let's get this back on the tumbler, and I'll see you in a week. So let's take a look at what our gravel rocks look like after being in grit number 2. Okay, so here is what our slurry mixture looks like. Still pretty brown and thick. And here is how they are looking after grit 2. They are actually looking pretty good. A lot better than what I thought they would. So far, honestly, so good. Now again, we've got a lot of material that's honestly not the best to polish, so I'm kind of interested in seeing how this is all going to look in the end. Let's get these back in the tumbler for grit 3. Okay, so we just added the stage 3 grit, 500 aluminum oxide, and it's time to get them back on the tumbler for grit number 3. It is finally time to move on our handful of random rocks to the polishing stage. Okay, so as I'm running my fingers through these, they are actually feeling pretty good, pretty smooth. They are definitely ready for their polish. For just grabbing a handful of random rocks, I'm actually really impressed with how they are looking. There's a lot of really beautiful color in here. So let's go ahead and get these put back in the tumbler for the polish. As you can see, the rock line is really, really low here, almost about probably a little bit over half the barrel. So we have lost a lot of mass in our rocks. All right, time to add the polish. We're going to do 3 scoops here, kind of heaping scoops. And we'll close this back up. We will be putting these on for 2 weeks this time around, and then we get to see the results of tumbling a handful of random rocks. All right. see you in 2 weeks. Okay, it is the moment of truth. Let's see what happens when you tumble a bunch of random rocks. And in they go for the last time. Let's rinse them off and see what they look like. Okay, so here's what they look like tumbling a bunch of random rocks. Now, as you can see, they are definitely not perfect. Some of them do have a really nice shine, but there are definitely areas that you can see that didn't get quite as beautiful as if you were to pick the specific rocks that you tumble. So right here is an example of a milky quartz. And milky quartzes are really nice rocks to tumble. They give a very beautiful shine. So as you can see, this one actually turned out pretty good. But compared to something like this basalt, you can see this one did not take a super great shine, but it does still kind of have a satiny finish. Here are a few of my personal favorites. And although they're not perfect, they actually did turn out better than I expected. So overall, I don't think I'll do this again. And I'll probably stick with rocks that do give a really nice shine when they are tumbled. But I do still think this experiment was pretty fun, and maybe you don't personally mind if your rocks just kind of have a satin finish instead of a glossy one. This little piece of epidote turned out pretty cool as well. So what do you think? Was this experiment a success or a failure? Let me know in those comments down below. If you're interested in these rocks, I will be giving them away to one lucky subscriber. So if you'd like these rocks, make sure you're subscribed to this channel, give this video a like, and tell me your favorite rock in the comments below.